Hi, this is Rick Harsh again, and I'll be listing books again. It seems that once you get started listing books, you can't stop. There are a lot of responses. A lot of people enjoy listing books, and I happened to get a response from Larry Riley, the man who translated Roberto Arlt's The Flamethrowers, the second half of his great novel. Larry Riley is probably the most prolific reader I know, and at the same time, one with the closest tastes to my own, and so we came to know each other because of that. Through the internet, and eventually we worked together to get the Flamethrowers out into the public. So Larry, looked at my lists, and of course, thousands of books came to his mind. But he pared it down to a list of 35, and he said, I don't know, I got a list of 35. I said, just put them in order. And so he sent me an email, and he put them in order. And I'm going to read the email just as I got it. And you will get Larry Riley's list of 20 books that most people won't put on their list of the best 20 books. And he starts out with, you're going to hate 1 and 2. 1, America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots by Philip Friedenberg and Jeff Walton, and its companion piece and inspirational text, number 2, The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vargas by me. 3, The Seven Madmen, The Flamethrowers, Roberto Arlt. Might as well get the personal stuff right out of the way. So I think he didn't really put it in order of best to worst. He just wanted to say I'm going to include those. Thanks, Larry. So we've got 35 books, actually 36, that should be in the top 20. Number 4 is Journey to the End of the Night by Stalin. And he says, it's really the book that got me into literature more than any other. And I mention it even though I would say to Larry, I think a lot of top 20 lists would have that on there. So it may not belong in this conversation, but to know that it, more than any other book, it got him into literature. Larry's not an academic. He was in the Coast Guard, and then he was working for the post office. So, and he is a great reader. Number 5, GB84 by David Peace. Love every book he's put out. Red or Dead would be another favorite and a favorite title, but GB84 is the one I like best. That's about the mining strike in 1984 in Great Britain. That's GB84. I've read it as well, and I don't disagree about the quality of that book. David Peace books are all over my shelves, and naturally when I turn to try to find them, I don't see them, but I like his, here it is, look, GB84. Since I found this one, I'll just leave it at that. David Peace wrote a trilogy. His latest works are a trilogy from Japan that is astonishing. But before that, what really got him was the Red Riding series, 1973, 1977, 1980, and 1983, I think, were the titles of the books. Really, crime novels like you've never seen crime novels written. He's his own man. I guess I would compare him not in style, but as an outsider who was able to maybe elevate to great literature, crime novels like our own James Ellroy. Although I think he's a great deal more brilliant than Ellroy in his works. I think Ellroy's a lot of fun to read, and I think Peace is the better writer. But that's beside the point. Chapel Road by Louis Paul Boone. Just a subversively funny book from beginning to end. Boone is like a more left-wing version of Celine. I have that on my balcony. I haven't finished it. It's one of those books that I was really enjoying and then got distracted, and it's always around one of my reading areas, but I never quite get to it. Now we're starting to get into some territory where I'm completely lost. I mean, I've heard of these people. Children of Clay by Raymond Queneau, the founder of Oulipo. Another book of his, The Blue Flowers, has a somewhat similar plot design to Seshu Foster's Atomic Aztecs. Never read Raymond Queneau. Larry, of course, has read probably all of them. Number 8. Now this one is maddening to me. I have 2 copies of the same book by Haldor Laxness, translated into Slovene, in this house that were here when we moved in. And, I really would like to read Haldor Laxness, but I haven't yet gotten around to simply ordering them. I think more books are coming out of his, more being translated lately. He says independent people, Haldor Laxness, for me the most deserving of Nobel Prize winners. History and prehistory are living things in his fiction. World Light and Iceland's Bell are just as good. Those are 3 masterpieces as far as I'm concerned, and Salkavalka is close. I know Salkavalka came out recently. I'm not sure who. Maybe the same people who brought out Cartarescu Archipelago may be bringing out Haldor Laxness. I think. Number 9, Fantasia, an Algerian Cavalcade by Assia Djebar. Yeah. Well, Larry, where do you hear about these things? I mean, I just don't, I trust him, but I can't buy all the books, I can't afford it. An Explanation of the Birds, I read that before Larry did, I bet. Antonio Lobo Antunes, he says, since you took Fado Alexandrino, I went with Explanation, which I think is equally good. That was actually the first I read, An Explanation of the Birds, and I bought it at the same time I bought Fado Alexandrino, and it was slimmer, so I read that, and immediately I knew I was in the universe of a completely unique writer, an extraordinary writer from Portugal, which I am told by our own Portuguese writer. Well, we have one of his books, Bedraggling Grandma with Russian Snow, Joao Hayes, who will be on some top 20 lists before too long, and is prolific considering he has to make a living translating. He's just published his 6th book, Joao. He's not all that thrilled with Antonio Lobo Antunes, but I don't know that he doesn't like him. Saramago doesn't come up in any of these, but I would put The Year of the Death of Ricardo Hayes in a top 20 sometimes. So that should be on here, and I'm sorry that I left it out. But Joao tells me that the Portuguese are not great readers. They read a lot less than most Europeans. Sorry about that. They Pessoa's people. How can that be? Number 11 is The Dirty Dust by Martin O'Cadain. That's Irish, so I don't know how the hell to say it. Martin O'Cadain. I believe it was translated from the Gaelic, and it was written in the 30s or 40s. That's all I know about it. I haven't had a chance to look into it. But number 12 is my territory as well. Cosmos by Witold Gombrowicz. I read that in the 80s, I think, and immediately there was, one of those things like, this guy's my kind of writer, I'll never forget the hanged sparrow, and the importance of the human involvement implied in a hanged sparrow. Sparrows don't commit suicide, but an extraordinary book. And the interesting thing to me is that when I was writing, let's see, it's here somewhere. When I was writing my book, The Appearance of Death to a Hindu Woman at the Iowa Writers Workshop, a good friend of mine and another person who I have a lot in common with in terms of taste, Todd Kim, wrote on my section of my manuscript, "Have you read Cosmos by Witold Gombrowicz?" And I ran into him. He was a quiet guy. We didn't talk much in class or after class or whatever. But I ran into him in a bookstore, and I asked him about that. And he just said that there was a part of that book that made him think of Cosmos. And I can understand to some degree why. It was a comic section in a book that's not all that comic, and but it was a pretty amazing act of archery. The next one is J.G. Ballard, who I've read. I don't remember what I've read, but I've read several. I mean, they're always around. There are probably 5 in the bookcases behind me. The Atrocity Exhibition. That one I'd never even heard of. Larry. And now, 14, The Inquisitory by Robert Pinget. I assume it's French. And he adds, I've read this at least 3 times. I'll bet you have. I'll bet it's 7 times. Number 15 is Gate of the Sun. This I've heard of, Elias Khoury. Not sure where he's from. Middle Eastern, North African. Elias Khoury. Egyptian? I don't know. But yeah, that one I've heard of, but I don't know anything about it, and he doesn't say anything. He does say something about number 16, A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James. This might make some lists, but it's really good. I've read it, and I think it's really good, but I don't think I would never put it on my top 20. I hope Marlon James comes up with something better. It's an extremely good book, but I don't know. There was something, it just did not strike me as the elite literature that all of these that I've read. And, well, you know what I'm saying? Marlon, don't be upset. I could be wrong. Larry's a better reader than I am. Number 17, I've read A People Betrayed, Carl and Rosa, 2 books by Alfred Dublin. These were companion novels and not all that unlike Berlin Alexanderplatz. The Carl and Rosa of the second book are Liebknecht and Luxemburg. I think you probably know that. But it is an extraordinary batch of books that he wrote. I just happened to find Berlin Alexanderplatz the most endearing in its sick, dark way. And it's also one of those that, like Sutton Tango, has a a film made of it that is basically scene by scene from the book. Who was that director? Fass. So anyway, a German guy, starting with an F. Yeah, he did it. He did it for television. Maybe that's how they could afford it, or the only way they could afford it. Number 18, halfway there. Too Loud a Solitude by Bohumil Hrabal. I saw Chris at Leaf by Leaf do a video. Just a great little novel. Now the next one, again, I have to argue. Number 19, Conversation in the Cathedral by Mario Vargas Yosa. That should be and would be in my top 20, and I think would be in other people's top 20. It's no secret. It's not an invisible book. I'm sorry, I keep bringing that up because I think of the idiocy of that, Joao Hayes Rosa's book being invisible. I was actually contacted by someone who said, yeah, great to see that on your list because, that's he's one of our great writers, That's Brazil. It's a pretty big country. A lot of Brazilians, and the literary world knows him. He is not an invisible writer. It'd be like calling Haldar Laxness an invisible writer, just because, most of us haven't read him because, he's been out of print or we just haven't gotten around to it, or we think that they all write like, all the Nordics write like, is he Nordic? Anyway, Iceland, is that Nordic? I don't know. But anyway, we think they're all like Ingmar Bergman, and it's going to be great, but we're going to suffer when we read it, just like we suffer when we watch Bergman. Anyway, that brings us to Camilo Jose Cela. The family of Pascual Duarte? No. This is Larry's list. San Camilo, 1936, by Camilo Jose Cela. Eve of the Spanish Civil War, the protagonist, a teenager, is chasing around various romantic interests, all the while being distracted by the news of the impending coup from a variety of angles. Never even heard of it. The Hive, yes, but not that one. Sit Marie Rose, Etel Adnan. No idea. That's all the information he gives me. Haven't looked it up. No. 22, a play. Accidental Death of an Anarchist by Dario Fo. I know it's a play, but I can't leave it out. And neither could I in my 2-volume work, The Assassination of Olof Palme. I know Olof is Swedish, and the anarchist who was killed in Milano. But if you read, this book, you'll find out, the madcap reasons that it's in there, because the main subject is the same. But Larry didn't put that in here. I should talk to him about that. Number 23, The Stalin Front and Payback by Gert Leydig. For me, these are the two best war novels. I was about 50 words into the first one and thinking, what the fuck? Leydig does for the war novel what Manchette will later do for the crime novel. He takes all the superfluous bullshit out of everything and gets straight to the brutality going on, and it's hilarious in its way. Artificial Respiration. I wasn't going to go around the house looking for all the books on this list that I have, but this was right here, and I'm going to put it back, by Piglia. Ricardo Piglia, who was a very, very ardent proponent of Arlt, and it's one reason Larry probably came to know him, but I think Larry's read everything by this guy. I've read this. I turned right to this. I just opened the book at random and saw underlined, Arlt writes what counts. Arlt is his style because Arlt's style is made on the linguistic plane of the same material of which the theme of his novels is made. That's why I laugh when those guys who are so condescending about him say, Arlt is a great writer in spite of his style. That gets to a very, very important point about Roberto Arlt. And those who would not grant him his status as one of the best writers of the 20th century are missing what he is capturing there. Now, I hope that I can upload this. I've gone over my 15-minute limit. But I wanted to do Larry's letter all in one, and I'm going to try. Okay, number 25, The Ultras by Ian Mcnamee, Northern Irish writer. I love everything by Mcnamee. And because of Larry, I've read Mcnamee, and I love everything by Mcnamee. Women as Lovers, that may be one of the ones by Elfriede Jelinek that I read and really liked, but Larry says the acidity is refreshing. I think that's probably one of the ones that I read. I think shortly after she won the Nobel Prize, I read a little about her. I don't go out and buy a Nobel Prize winner's works ever, really. I mean, just because of that. But when she won the Nobel Prize, everything I read about her was it was kind of like I had like this response, like, this is someone who's probably as close to me as Gombrowicz, and why have I never heard of her? And I got to get. And somebody put out 4 paperbacks, I think, at least, and The Piano Teacher had been made into a movie, I think. I'm not sure about that, but I bought 4 of her books and read them all and was thrilled. Number 27, Brands Heath, Dark Mirrors, Scenes from the Life of a Faun, all by Arno Schmidt. And that definitely has a place here because I'm not even seeing Arno Schmidt, his big one, Bottom's Dream, in top 20 lists. Maybe because people are still reading it, which would make sense. It's a pretty big book. And I've read one of his short stories, and when you come across someone like him, like it's like if somebody hands you Joyce's not Ulysses, but Finnegan's Wake, and you think, wow, yeah, this is great. Oh, maybe I won't be reading it all right now, but I'll keep reading parts and so on. So I know I love it. I love it. I love Bottom's Dream. Haven't read it. I read parts of it, and then I gave it away to someone who really wanted it. Now I can't read it, so I don't have to. And then you come across a short story that's unfortunately Joyce's short stories are pretty as impeccable as they are. They're not playful. Schmidt is subversive and playful. Everything I've seen by him. So anyway, think of it that way if you'd like. 28, No Great Mischief by Alistair MacLeod, a Nova Scotian version of Laxness. Larry. Alistair MacLeod. How Late It Was, How Late, James Kelman. I know of that book. I just don't remember why I never really cared about reading it. It was easy to find. It was around. Here's another non-novel. he doesn't mention it, but he knows I know. Operation Massacre by Rodolfo Walsh. That is one of the most important and powerful books written in the 50s by the Argentinian Rodolfo Walsh about a massacre that occurred at that time, and basically gives you the starting point of all that went to shit in Argentina and led to the horrific story of Rodolfo Walsh just having had enough, like 20 years later, and writing something about the regime, 1974, 75, and saying, I'm going to publish this, and today I'll be assassinated. So he put a pistol in his pocket and went around like he normally would and was assassinated that day. Rodolfo Walsh. Now here we get some really interesting ones. Manitowoc Wu Ming, American Revolutionary War in upstate New York, as put through the blender by 5 Italian anarchist fiction writers who write under the Chinese pen name that means anonymous. It's pretty damn good. When they were 4, they wrote Q as Luther Blissett. Never heard about that either. 32, Nip the Buds, Shoot the Kids, Kenzaburo Oe. That I've heard of. 3 to Kill, that I've read. This is Manchette, Patrick Manchette, who he referred to back when he was talking about Gert Leydig. Manchette does for the crime novel what Leydig does for the war novel. All Souls Rising, Master of the Crossroads, The Stone That the Builder Refused by Madison Smart Bell. His Haitian trilogy about the rebellions in the time of Toussaint Louverture. Haven't read them, haven't read these, and now I wish I was younger. 35, The Very Rich Hours of Count von Stauffenberg. Now, I'm not sure if that's a novel by someone else or what, because that's all he wrote. I think he was, at the end, he left out the author. I think that's probably a title. Then I got an email from him that said, what I forgot to add was Hurricane Season by Fernanda Melchor. That made a big impression on me. That's one of those books that you hear all about. It wins awards, and immediately you begin to doubt it because so many books are overhyped and win awards. And when you get to them, you think, "Oh God, I fell for the hype again." So I don't decide that I'm not going to read a book, but when a book like this comes out, and until someone like Chris Villa reads it or Larry, I'm just I'm going to hold off. Now I'll read it. Because Larry says it made a big impression on him. So there you have it. That's a list of 35 books that should be in anybody's top 20, or no, somebody's top 20, by the translator Larry Riley I can't say where he's from. This is not that kind of thing. Larry Riley of Corona Samizdat fame, because we are publishing the full Arlt. That has been published already, but it's been given a stupid title by Riverboat Books. But we're also going to do it, and we're going to do it better, and we're going to do it right. Not that they're doing it badly, and I would recommend it, as a matter of fact. I've been told there are a lot of typos in it, and, I know that like my own. Actually, it's holding up this. My own book, Circumnavigation Through Maritime History, has an embarrassing number of typos. The reason being that I'm losing my light here. The reason being that I'd been over it so many times, I thought I was shocked when I reread it and saw how many typos were in there. But with Arlt, we're going to be a lot more careful, and we're going to give you an Arlt with a lot fewer typos. And Larry translated, he was the first ever to translate into English the Flamethrowers, and the only one so far. Thanks for being here. Let me know what you think of Larry and his selections.